Call to order the city council meeting for Monday, March 9th, 2020. Roll call.
Herb Roberg. Laura Tulowitzki.
Here.
Aaron Austin.
Here.
Jen Mazias.
Here.
Tom Nimas.
Here.
Karen Novacek.
Here.
Mayor McGrath.
Here.
Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item is the approval of minutes for the city council meeting for February 10th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the February 10, 2020 City Council meeting minutes.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments or changes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is approval of monthly expenditures via roll call. Is there a motion to approve the monthly expenditures?
I move approval of the monthly expenditures as reviewed.
Second? Second. All in favor, roll call vote?
Mayor McGrath.
Yes.
Karen Novacek.
Yes.
Tom Nimas.
Yes.
Jen Mazias.
Yes.
Aaron Austin.
Yes.
Laura Tulowitzki.
Next is public comment. If anyone here has any comments to make, please step up to the microphone and sign in first. You have about 3 minutes to say whatever you'd like to say. Anyone like to make a public comment? Okay, hearing none. Next is the mayoral announcements. Since our last meeting, I'm sad to report the passing of Gail Nemec, who was a longtime educator in this city and very involved. Mr. Nemec was very well loved as a teacher, and from people I know and spoke about him said he was one of the best teachers he ever had, and he really cared about students, and Gail was very involved in the city works and things. And if you knew Gail, he would tell you his opinion. So I'm very sad to see Gail go. Next, we have the presentation by Shawamigan Holdings LLC on proposed purchase of city property at 204 West Bayfield Street, the Broketown Palace Building, and action on authorization for staff to negotiate development agreement for sale. And we have the principals here, and I'll just let them introduce themselves.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lawrence Weiland, and these are my business partners.
I'm Martin Van Bergen.
And I'm Gabrielle Van Bergen.
And we're here to present a proposal regarding the Broketown Palace Building, which everyone is familiar with, I'm sure. And that is a proposal to purchase and develop it. What makes it unusual is that the city owns it, as I'm sure you're all well aware. But that also creates some opportunities because funding opportunities are available through the city to flow to a project like this. What we're here tonight to do is just to inform you of our interest, sketch out what we have in mind for the building, and seek your input as to whether, as owners of this building, who you are, if you would give your approval to move ahead with negotiating with the city and taking the next steps in development. What we envision for the building is a mixed-use development. I am owner of Hart Graphics Print Shop over in Ashland, and one of the tenants in this building would be some production capacity from Hart Graphics. Right now I'm leasing additional space in addition to my main building in Ashland, and I'd like to consolidate that, and this offers a site to do that and offer space for further expansion should that happen in the future. Jemai is interested in having the capacity to continue expansion. So we envision an anchor tenant in the main part of the building being Hart Graphics apparel production for multiple apartment units. Some more of the details were included in the packet that was sent out to you. But that's the gist of it. And if you've had a chance to look at that or think about it, we certainly welcome any questions at this point.
Well, I've been working with a bunch of people over the years on this, talking to whoever had an interest, and one can maybe attest that I've been prodding him for a while in this building. Is everything you read about city development and business development is to seek local businesses that hope to expand, which have a more greater possibility of success in bringing someone new. So this is exciting to me because this is a good, stable business who wants to expand, and I think this would be a great opportunity for Washburn if we can work out the arrangement. But right now for city council, it's whether you think we should go forward and negotiate with them, see if we can work out the details. So any council members have any questions or comments for these? Yes.
I have one question. Are you still thinking of keeping your store in Ashland and one here, or consolidating the entire business?
No, we would, Art Graphics would stay just as is in Ashland, and actually, Art Graphics wouldn't be presented on this building in our vision. We would have just some production, just production. So
Okay.
customer service and so forth would all be as it is now in Ashland.
Okay.
So we'd be running back and forth.
Okay.
But,
That's what I was wondering.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Any other council members? Yes,
What's
Tom?
your plan with the smaller part of that building that's attached to it?
right, that is part of the property as well, and we envision developing that as a standalone commercial rental unit.
Karen, did you have a comment?
Yes, in the prospectus that you gave us, you talked about a shop being separately branded that would be in the front end of the first floor. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we're talking about putting in a retail shop that would be kind of under the guise of Art Graphics, but we would not be under that name per se. And then we're looking to do some of our own homemade goods while also bringing in homemade goods from the local community as a consignment sale. So beyond that, we can't really, see. But yeah, that's about the gist of the idea. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, Washburn in this area has so many talented local artists that our vision for it is, of course, the beautiful art that can be made with screen printing to create apparel for folks to purchase, but then also, like Marty said, to bring in consignment sales from other local producers.
Thank you.
Any questions, everybody? Okay. So I'd be seeking a motion to direct city staff to work out development agreement with these people.
I would move that city staff go forward to continue discussion to potentially work out an agreement, a sale agreement with the principals that have presented this information.
So this would come back to city council if we had a final thing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's just working out some of the
Right.
ideas, just so
Right.
it's clear. It's not a done deal, and it's not a done deal at all.
Right.
We're just taking the first steps
Yeah.
towards that goal. Any other questions or comments by council members? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Look forward to talking to you.
Well, thank you all very much, and
Thank you.
we'll keep an open line of communication.
We'll be in touch.
I lived in Washburn 20 years ago, and Marty and Gabby live here now, so
Yep.
we know the area, and we have high hopes for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the presentation and discussion on the Washburn Library Annual Report. Daryl Pendergrass, the librarian, is here. Daryl?
I'm Daryl Pendergrass. I'm the library director here in Washburn, and on July 1st, well, I will have been here 15 years as the library director. I like to say when I first came here, the little kids all looked at me like I was their dad, and now they all look at me like I'm their grandpa. So I'm still part of the family, I guess, is what matters. So the annual report, we tabulate a whole bunch of numbers for the Department of Public Instruction. And I sent you that paperwork and lots of numbers, but what do those numbers mean for Washburn? How is it working out for Washburn? You can see our circulation has decreased somewhat. It's decreasing in all the libraries, and that's the hard number, that's the books and movies and music that are leaving the building. What it doesn't account for is in the bulleted item on the front, whenever you see we have 2,500 e-audio checkouts, 3,000 e-book checkouts, and 6,350 people who tap into our Wi-Fi. So DPI doesn't count those as hard numbers, but they are numbers that we're getting used. You know, people are using the information access we offer. And if you go to the second page for just a second, you'll see that maybe it's still in the. You know, we have thousands of. Let me see. Oh yeah, for the year we had 3,000 people use the library for meetings and programs. That's in the basement. And we had 68,000 visits, and that's counters on the doors. And that, you know, of course, there's the one kid who runs in and out the door many times each day. But you know, it's still a lot of, you know, there's thousands of people who come to the library for different things, different, you know, they're using it for information, they're using it to meet, they're using it for, you know, whatever the meetings are. The city uses it, the county uses it. In fact, today we had the basement was full for the Bayfield County Economic Development Corporation. So the building's being used, and we're doing lots of, you know, offering lots of information, lots of different things for those people. A new thing, in 2018, the Washburn Public Library partnered with UW Extension. UW Extension came to me and asked if we would go into the jail and be a part of something called the Literacy Link, and that's for incarcerated people who have young children. And Liz Laxall from UW Extension and I go in, and she's the driving force of it. I'm more of the encouraging those people to use their libraries, to read to their children. And what we do is we get the parent to read a book, and we record them reading the book, and their child back home gets a copy of that book, and they can tap into that video through the internet, and so they can see their parent and still, you know, be bonded with their parent, and then see their parents safe, because, you know, they watch every television show whenever you're in jail. You know, it's not good, but they're safe, you know, and we know that those children are watching those videos over and over and over and over. You know, it's not just a one-time shot, so they're staying connected with their parent. But I can say that I have had some of the incarcerated parents, after they've been released, come into our library with their children and use our library. And if we can get them moving in that direction, it's a positive thing for them. So that's something that, you know, and I can tell you that other counties in Wisconsin, we've met with other county officials throughout the state to, they're doing the same program. And so it's a worthwhile endeavor. And then on the annual report, what the numbers do, there's a formula for getting the money that runs the library. The taxpayers in Washburn the residents in Washburn are taxed ahead of time, so they pay up front. The county dollars come as a reimbursement based on a formula that determines the cost per checkout multiplied by the number of checkouts the county is responsible for. And if you go to the back page, we can already look and kind of project how much, you know, what our budget's likely to look like next year. And the best case scenario will be $191,800, and this year we were at $176,900. But we're not likely to get 191 because that'd be 100% reimbursement from the county. And so my best guess is we'll be at about 175,800, which is about $1,000 less. If the city is able to hold to what they gave us last year, The short of it is we'll be able to make it work. We always have. We'll do what we have to do. And before I ask for, if you have any questions on the annual report, I believe it was 2 years ago that we were talking about the $300,000 that we need to do the Tuck Point project at the library. And we've known about that for some time, but I think collectively we said, hey, let's get going on that. And so as I stand here right now, we have $130,000 in the bank. The Otto Bremer Trust Foundation got a hold of me last week and said they're good for another $100,000 if we can get to 191 total. So that gives me, we need about $61,000 more. Bayfield County has it's complicated, but they have roughly $60,000 for grants to the 5 libraries in Bayfield County. Because all the libraries in Bayfield County work very well together, I've called my colleagues and said, hey, are you guys going to make any big requests from that? And they've said no. They know that we're looking to make a big request. And I've met with the county administrator, and nothing's a done deal, but I'm super confident we'll have all the money we need this year. And you know, there's just no doubt we're going to have the money. And we should, and we'll start next year for getting the work done. The county money isn't decided until October, and that's, I actually met with the administrator and said, what if we did the work now, and then if I could do that? He said, no, you can't do that. So that's good news. So we're moving forward. And we also have a big list of other fundraisers, and I've talked to other grant sources, and so I'm very confident we'll have all the money we need. Do you have any questions about the annual report? Is there anything you want to tell me about that you're hearing from people that we're doing, they'd like to see changed or different?
It's here.
I was just curious, do you have, just for the community, anything that you recommend or anything you want to encourage, because I know, we all know it's, more than this report, but how we can kind of help that report when it goes to the county.
Well, just off the top of my head, we have something called cypressresume.com that Washburn pays for. It's about $200 a year, and it's a resume program where anybody with a Washburn library card number, you go to cypressresume.com, type in your library card number, and you can make a resume and a cover letter in about 20 minutes. You don't have to type it out. It'll ask you the questions like, what are your interests, what's your education, and it will write it for you. All the grammar is perfect, all the punctuation's perfect, and you push a button and it prints out. And we've had it for a few years, and every time somebody comes in and I catch them making a resume, I'd run over right away and go, do this instead. And every one of them's like, oh my gosh, this is so great. If you did nothing else other than just people, when they're looking for work, say, call the library, they have a resume. And the beauty of it is so then you take your library card and you're on a trip to wherever, you can run off your resume from wherever you're at. It's saved in the cypressresume.com. It's really cool.
That's cool. When you came forward a couple years ago about the tuck pointing project, and I heard that number, I was frightened. I thought that was a very large number.
Right.
I'd like to congratulate you and the staff and everyone involved with working out that, and looking like the finances are really good.
Yeah,
I think it's indicative of how much the community values the library and the good work done there.
And that's what Bremer, and whenever Bremer came, when the Bremer Trust came, that was one of the things they wanted to see. They wanted to see money. They wanted to see that we had done something, that we had plans for more, and they saw these numbers of how many people use the library, and so that was part of it that moved forward, and so that's great. And I'm also glad to see that we're moving in that direction, because I kind of said to myself, I got to keep working until the tuck point's done. So maybe someday, not anytime soon, but maybe someday I'll be able to retire.
Karen?
Carol, a couple questions. Is there a time limit on the Bremer offer of 100,000 when we get to 190 or when
I
they?
believe it's February of next year. It's either the
Okay.
21st or the 22nd.
So you have sufficient time?
Sufficient time.
Okay. And just my other comment is, I've had an occasion to be at the library recently at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and wow, I'm so impressed with what a wonderful, safe, important space for kids.
Mhm.
Obviously, to do homework, to hang out with friends. It really is impressive.
And that kind of comes back to the 15 years that I've been there. So most of the students and children who come to the library, I've known since they were in car seats and babies. And so whenever they come in, I'm not like the authoritative figure. I'm like the uncle or the grandpa. And so when we get along, and so whenever I come into a room, they don't all scatter. They like, hey, how's it going? So, I respect them. They respect me. If I ask them to keep it down, they usually do.
It's really impressive. Thank you so much for giving that space, making that space available.
Sure.
Jen, did you want to say?
Yeah, because the only thing I've heard is, everybody uses the library rooms.
Mhm.
And a lot of places now are going to charging for rooms.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying, people have asked me. And I said, that is a service also. So I think it's something that we should, I think it's something that's really valuable for our community, because not all organizations have $25 every time they meet.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that we need to put $1 on. I just want to recognize that it is one of the few places that you can go and get a room and get 10, kids together for something, or, things like that. That's another really critical part for our community. So I don't think we should put a dollar value on it either. I just want to talk about how important that is, because it's really rare to be able to reserve a space and get together with your group. And there's 3 rooms.
Well, in the basement, there's been times where the big rooms full, the 2 side rooms are full,
Yeah.
and there'll be another meeting at that little kitchen table in front of the kitchen.
Yeah.
And the great thing is, everybody gets along, and
Yeah.
a lot of times I just kind of go like, oh, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, so thank you for that.
You bet.
Anything else? Yes, Laura?
I think just on that same note, there are so many services that are available, things that I didn't even know about the resume, but there are so many programs that I find about is amazing, and you and staff put so much energy and time and effort into providing that space for people, and I just want it to be on the back of our minds that if you get to a point where you feel like you could use more support from the city, whether it's during those really busy times to make sure it stays safe, and when you can't be there as uncle, grandpa, whatever, you have, the support you need from the city too. Because I think as long as we're talking about how much gratitude is out there
Right.
for what you do for the community there.
Well, when the kids come in about first grade with their teachers, they all think I own the library. They'll always ask me, do you own the library? Do you own the library? And I always say, you own the library. This is your library. You tell me what you want. I just run it for you. I just manage it for you. You're welcome here anytime. Come here as often as you want. I don't own the library.
Daryl, you're gonna have to stick around until the kids call you great-great-grand.
Respectfully, May Greenwood's record is gonna
Save.
Yeah, right.
hold it.
Thank you.
And if you ever need to call me or talk to me, come on in. What you see is how I am, so I don't ever, I want to hear if there's stuff we need to change or do, let me know. Otherwise, I don't know about it, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is discussion and action on Lakeshore Parkway and Walking Trail Land Management Plan. This is in your binder, it's been worked on, and Jen and her group at the Parks Committee have been working really hard. Jen, you want to take this?
Sure. Do we have anybody here from the Parks Committee? We don't. Shocking. Well, first of all, I have to thank, it's not me, and it's, lots of folks put a lot of effort into this. Bob and Erica and Kylie and everybody and Tony. And so it has gone through many, many iterations. And I will tell you what we have here tonight is a balance of trying to make sure that we keep, trying to balance the fact that we have a very complicated ecosystem down there with the fact that we also have folks that maybe don't have natural resource professional backgrounds that manage it. Some of Bob's staff, like it's something that Bob, and you can jump in here anytime with me.
You're doing great.
And that we really wanted to make sure that he could hand over to his public works staff that says, go out and do this. And frankly, that's just not very easy because what we have down there over the past decade or longer is we have a lot of invasive species. So if you see that front picture of your plan, I took that picture a long time ago. And that's kind of how it used to look. And people now talk a lot, oh, look, there's one right there, there's Erica. Thanks, Erica. Oh, I'm talking about it right now. So you can jump in at any time. And so, people are talking about how the vegetation is down there and how you feel like you're walking through like a tunnel. Well, a lot of that stuff is invasive species. And so we talked a lot of different ways of doing this, but what it came down to is the fact that things are going to change so much over the next couple of years when we start to treat the invasive species that we only concentrated on vegetation and we only went out for 3 years. And it's because it's complicated once you start like treating that. You have to go back in and you have to cut it at a certain height. And so this is going to have to be iterative. We're going to have to revisit this after a couple of years, but this is really what this is. I hopefully will provide is that we won't have things happen where last year, frankly, we cut down some vegetation and we cut it down with really good intention, but what we didn't have was what our desired future condition was. And so if you just cut that vegetation down, what we did over by the artesian well, we're just creating more brush and more invasive species. And so we're not helping ourselves in the future. So if we want to have long-lived species that have tall canopies that we can walk under, we have to start taking some baby steps to that. So, this was reviewed by natural resource professionals. We gutted it a couple different times to try to make it so that anybody could pick it up and read it and understand it. And if you can't, we can make edits to it because that's what it needs to be, a balance. And so I guess Bob, Erica, do you have anything else to talk about in terms of?
I feel like you might have understated the number of iterations we went through. But I think it was a great collaboration.
Use the microphone.
Like Jen mentioned, my perspective was I needed something that was something that I could use. I think that we've gotten awful close to it. Defining what those future conditions are is really, really difficult. But I think we've made leaps and bounds, and it's something that we can use and benefit from at this point. Not saying that we're not going to have to reach out and get some technical expertise occasionally to make sure that things are going the way they're intended to. But we've got commitments from Erica and other people in the Parks Committee to help us do that. So I think it's a good thing. I've heard a lot of people talk about view sheds, and I think this is going to provide a good balance between the correct native habitat and the view that people want of the lake. Once we get the invasives out of there, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised how they're going to start seeing that lake like we used to in the past. So, I'm excited for it. I think it's a good combination of what everybody wants. It's going to take a lot of effort, but it's something that needs to be done. So.
We really want to make we wanted desired future conditions for each area, but we actually just don't have those, and so once we start getting some successes and we start seeing kind of things like that, we're gonna hopefully, add more to this as we go on. The other thing that was a little difficult is we want to make sure that we continue, we have areas right now which we are calling like view corridors, you'll see in here, and that was really important. Like Bob said, like, can we have some kind of like specs on them? Well, each one is so different that we
I couldn't
can't.
get that
We
definition.
couldn't get that definition, because one might be long and skinny, and the other one might be short, and, because with our view sheds or with our corridors, it's a combination too, we can't cut a lot of that vegetation on that slope, or we're gonna keep losing that slope. So there's like, it's just fine tweaking, and if you see the lake shore right now, all the issues that everybody's having along the lake shores of Brownstone Trail up in Bayfield, this is not something that's easy, right? And so we're really lucky that we have the walking trail, but definitely in some places, we're getting pretty close to that shoreline. I mean, just look at what everyone's losing. And so this will hopefully start to protect that a little bit too, and also have those corridors, those view corridors. So we took pictures of each one. So this summer, we're gonna go down and look at them too harder to make sure that we keep those view corridors, because we've heard loud and clear that people want to be able to see the lake, right? They want to be able to access the lake, they want to be able to see the lake, and so it's like it's a balance. So I think it's gonna be iterative, so we're gonna have to be patient, but at least we have something now, I think, to go back to, that we have like existing condition, we have desired condition, we have some path, maybe it's temporary, only like a couple of years to start getting us towards that. So, and the fact that we also we have decisions out there, right? We don't have like a future condition for like every piece. So we might, what if something comes up between council and says, oh, dog park, or hey, amphitheater, whatever it may be, it also leaves it open for that kind of stuff too. So I think I don't know, it's the best we can do, try really hard. So, and we're open, right? We've tossed this a lot around within a community, but it has not gone out to like, new eyes in a long time. And so we are totally open for, this is not, by any means, does not have to be a done deal. Because we've looked at it so many times.
Kind of as a testament, when I first saw the plan, I did not feel comfortable with it at all. And as it's evolved to what you're looking at now, it's not gonna be easy, but it's something we can do. And I think we'll make big improvements. It's come a long way.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Which part?
Well, like in the beginning, what you were uncomfortable with, what kind of things do you think make it manageable, and what you feel like?
Well, it's a usable document. In the beginning, we weren't really focused on how we were going to actually take this document and implement it.
The program of work, those tables that are on pages like
Stuff that's been added.
10, 11, we did it, like, we had to restructure it. So it was like,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There's
It's so
great,
clear.
there's great information, and a lot of it's very technical. The book stuff doesn't know what a lot of that stuff means, but it's evolved into something that we can take and with a little bit of help, we can actually implement it.
I think you have to take a ton of time and good effort, and so grateful, because without clear communication or a go-to resource that everyone's agreed on and can see, it's so hard to communicate properly and get that work done. I am curious how you guys are going to do this work. Is this like, do you have a plan? I don't know how much time and money is put into it.
Coastal
yeah,
Brand?
go fund
I don't know how
that.
much the city puts into the management of the walking trail and.
You speak at the microphone.
Yes. I can share the microphone. Yeah, even though we hadn't gotten through this whole planning process, the Wisconsin Coastal Management Funds, they have an open funding request due every November. And so we knew bases were going to be an issue, and we knew regardless what this plan said, we needed to deal with that. And so we went ahead and got started on a Wisconsin Coastal Management Grant proposal. It went in. It should be funded from all of what we have heard, and so that would start this summer. And so that will do a lot of, there's a little bit of city match, there's a little bit of match coming from volunteers and technical resources too.
The services in kind.
Yep, the services in kind, so no cash match. And then the cash is all coming from Wisconsin Coastal Management.
So that'll make a huge dent down there. And we've already talked about going after phase 2, because if any of you've dealt with buckthorn and honeysuckle, which are the 2 main invasives down there, you really have to see how they're going to respond once you take them out the first time. Then the little babies resprout a little bit. You can't just plant right into it with natives. So going after a phase 2 grant for that next 18 months, I think would be ideal. Yeah, and then get to maintenance mode.
So hopefully the public works, they'll continue to do general maintenance of the
Yeah.
trail tread and do some different things down there. And then we'll contract out some of the more specific,
Yes.
invasive species removal. And then over time, maybe public works might have to do some maintenance and some cutting. But in general, trying to balance that, because they're not gonna be doing all the technical rehab work, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of the grant money would be for a contractor to go in and do the heavy lifting at first. And really thinking about the slopes and protecting those and how to treat the ravines and being really cautious too. But we've got some really great contractors in this area, and that's all they do is restoration of invasives and native plantings. So I think we have some really good resources.
Let's
Any other questions?
No, this looks fantastic. It really does.
So we're looking for a motion to accept the plan.
Make a motion to accept this plan.
Second.
Any other questions or comments or additions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for the great work. I know you
Yeah,
guys have set those meetings, and I know you worked really hard, Erica, and everyone on that committee.
This is why I got on the Parks Committee.
She finished while she was on vacation.
I know, yeah, and she finished it while she was on
Now,
vacation.
let's think that if she finished it while she was on vacation, that's dedication. That's fabulous. Thank you. Next, we have discussion action on the contract renewal with Marina Management, Inc. And since Carl's not here, Scott, do you want to discuss this?
Sure. Everyone should have received a copy of the proposed marina management agreement. This was an item that was late in coming out in the packet because the Harbor Commission had a special meeting last Tuesday evening at which this agreement was finalized. So there was several versions of this agreement, and I had outlined a few of the changes that had occurred. This is a 5-year agreement with the option to renew in 1-year increments for 5 years thereafter. There are a few language changes throughout the document. There are some updates and clarifications and things that were removed that no longer apply. There were other clarifications that were made to the document that clarified responsibilities as to who is doing what and so forth. There is a change to the what I call the profit sharing formula with Marina Management. That does give Marina Management a little more money for how many years it's been, over 12 years now that Marina Management, which is Michelle Schreider's company, has been managing the marina. We started about the same time. And so that was something that she felt very strongly of just having a little more revenue and doing a good job. And for the past 9 years or so, I mean, there has certainly been a profit at the marina, and the city, through the Harbor Commission, has reinvested a lot of those proceeds into doing further improvements at the marina. So those are some of the major changes that had occurred in this contract. I think that it's important that we have a marina operator. We did come up to a time limit. This current contract does expire at the end of this month, So I do ask the council approve this agreement.
Any questions or comments on this?
I have a question. Can you walk me through, request, okay, so the Harbor Commission has direct authority over capital repairs and projects. Can you walk me through how it used to be and how it is changing? Because I guess I thought they kind of did, but, so I'm a little confused.
You're correct, they did.
Okay.
But once in a while, when we do a project that directly affects the marina operations, it gets a little complicated at times when we're doing something down there and it's affecting what marina management is trying to do. And so we just clarified that arrangement that, hey, when it comes to dealing with the contractors and so forth, it's the city that has to deal with the contractors. Marina management cannot deal with our contractors. And so we're just clarifying that arrangement and that relationship in this document.
Okay.
We did change some of the maintenance provision, had a slight increase. So we're looking to have a little better communication and coordination with when is it a maintenance item for the marina to take care of through their process, when does it become a capital item for the Harbor Commission to take care of their budget. There's always been a little, we have a very unique agreement, a very unique arrangement. This doesn't happen in, well, anywhere else. And so it's,
Yeah,
so
because we do this all the time, right? Because we have concessionaires come in and run campgrounds, and it's the same thing, right? It's, there's lots of questions on what is maintenance, and when I look through here, we're getting there, but I think there's still, I think it's hard. So that's why I wanted to understand it a little bit more.
So those changes were basically to do our best to clarify that on paper so there's no misunderstanding.
Okay.
And over the past 12 years, Michelle and I have I think, developed a pretty good relationship. And
Yeah.
we will banter back and forth
Yep.
when we think one or the other disagrees. So.
Yeah, I think it's hard sometimes in terms of understanding the Harbor Commission's role. So, it does a better job. I guess for me, I've never read it before, so I don't have a clear comparison to how it was compared to this, because I guess I wasn't as intimate with the last one. Maybe I just pay more attention now that I've been here for a while.
The last one was 7 years old. So.
That might be. Okay.
It was muddied at first, and it's gradually getting clarified.
Yeah.
And compared to what it was before, it's much, much better.
Yeah.
But it could be tweaked more, but we're trying to work with it. There's no doubt that Michelle and the group have done an excellent job.
Yep.
In the past, the city funding from that was negligible, and now we're putting all our money back into it, and the marina does not look like it used to. And the improvements are vast down there. And we have a marina where all our slips are leased out. That is not the case in the surrounding marinas. So that shows we're doing something very well here.
I would add that I think everyone's aware that we have right now a relatively new, relatively young Harbor Commission. We have a lot of new members. So assuming this passes tonight, I believe that one of the upcoming goals for the Harbor Commission is to take a look at some of the outstanding projects and to spend some time discussing and putting together some planning for to the future as to what are the new projects. We've been operating under a marina plan that was put together 10 years ago. It was a completely separate planning process and document that we've implemented a great number of projects and ideas from that. plan, and I think it's time to go back and update that. And it would be a good time to bring some of our new Harbor Commission members up to speed on a lot of those topics and get them on board with a new set of future projects.
We're able to implement those items because the marina is turning a profit
Right.
continually, whereas in the past we had not been. And that's why many felt that she was entitled to more of the revenues than she had in the past contract, because she is increasing the city's profit. But also I'd like to, I don't know if you ever met him, Rick, can you stand up? We have one of the newest Harbor Commission members right here. This is Rick Grubely, who you approved recently.
Yeah, right.
He's one of our newest Harbor Commission members, so in case you never met him. So I think the work there is really well done. Yes.
I move approval of the contract between City of Washburn and Marina Management Incorporated.
Second? Second. Any other questions or comments?
We name Michelle, like, specifically in here, which I think is a little odd, because that could, I mean, this is a 5-year agreement. I mean, it says that the next one will be like, how, gone through but I wonder why, because it just says, the manager hired to fill shall be a certified marine manager, designated, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to, Michelle Schneider is this, it just kind of like, for me, if she changes, it just seems like we've said enough.
To clarify that, that's a good question, that's a good point. This agreement is specific to Michelle Schreier.
It is.
Yes.
So even if there's a new.
That all has to be reapproved.
Reapproved. Correct.
And that was a very specific provision. She operates an S corporation. She is the key employee.
Okay. Okay, see, I wasn't aware of that. I thought maybe she managed for a company and she was, no. It's her. That's it. This goes in. Thank you for that.
If something changes, there's provisions there on how those changes will be made and what notifications have to be made.
Yep, okay.
Just in that instance, if she wants to retire, sell, or whatever, it's spelled out how that would work.
Okay, my last question is the lease boundary. Like, it talks about that in here, and there's no map, and does it describe it better somewhere?
I do have
Always
a copy
confused.
of the lease boundary. I'm
Okay.
sorry, in my case, in trying to put this together, I did not include a copy of that. We had revised that map a few years back, but basically that boundary goes from the stairwell to the west break wall, follows the shoreline. It does not include the walking trail. It goes over to include a portion of the boat storage area, includes the parking area, the fish cleaning station, the building itself, the piers, the boat well, and the property basically up to the walking trail on the east side of the property before the road to the coal dock.
Okay, my suggestion would be that that's like an appendix or something, like, or we put it in, in the future or something.
When we
It's
have
fine
the
right
final
now.
signed version, we will make sure that we include that.
Because I know Michelle's been working on getting some of that area cleaned up, because there's tons of like old trailers and stuff that I think like needs to be worked, but I was wondering where that lease boundary was. Okay, that's the last of my questions.
There is an official map that should be, it's under the old one that should be attached to this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is discussion and action on incorporating new city-owned streetlights into Bayfield Street reconstruction project. Scott, do you want to continue with this?
Sure. It's kind of a goofy question, and it's a difficult question to ask because I don't have a lot of answers and I can't answer a lot of your questions. But given the variables that we have, the question really is, do you want to have new city-owned streetlights along Bayfield Street when the new project is complete? just a little bit of a previous history on this. So when the current streetlights, which were installed in 2008, I believe, they started falling over in 2007. That was one of the first issues I dealt with when I came here. We had some windstorms, and we actually lost like 5 of them that summer. They were rusting at the base, but those streetlights are owned by Xcel Energy. They're not city-owned. And so we pay, we just pay the electricity rate for Xcel's lights. Okay. So at the time, we had looked at, well, should the city buy its own lights? And at that particular time, that would have cost us around $300,000. And at that time, that was not an expense that the council felt that we could afford or do. And because they're Xcel streetlights, people will commonly ask the question, well, how come you don't have decorations on them and pretty Christmas lights and things of that nature? Well, Xcel doesn't allow that on their streetlights. When you look at other communities like Ashland, their downtown light, those are city-owned lights. It's not on a state highway. They're city-owned lights, and so they can do what they want on their own lights. So if we had our own lights, that would be a possibility. But there will be a cost to that, and we haven't spent the time to say, well, how much exactly that's going to cost, and that's pretty much an impossible question at this time because the project is 4 to 6 years away, and so it's difficult to give you an exact figure as to what that would be. We are not selecting any particular style of streetlight at this time, but we need to know if you want to do this because it has to be engineered in with change of lighting plans. If we want our own, we're going to have to do our own circuits as to how many, what area we would want. We'll have to notify Xcel Energy. Everything has to be done well in advance because the entire plan for this project has to be pre-approved a year in advance. There's federal approvals and so forth, and it has to be set before the state would bid this project out. So I've got to get the ball going on this, knowing that we're probably looking at $400,000 plus addition to the cost of this project, and I can't tell you exactly what the entire cost of this project even is yet. Just know that this would be another component to it, which would be significantly expensive, that we would do our best to tack on to it. So it's a shot in the dark at this point, but if you believe that new nice streetlights are important to the city, now is the time to begin considering it. Does that mean that in the future we decide we can't afford it? Well, we could probably pull out what the implications of that would be. I cannot exactly tell you at this point. We may have to reimburse some engineering costs or eat some costs with that. But that's about the best answer I can give you at this time.
I would add to that though, and, the poles that we have right now don't have electrical plug-ins per se. And so you're mentioning a cost, I remember it being higher than that if we wanted the electrical outlets for Christmas lights. So, myself, I've talked to the public and tried to tell them, and always it's not us that owns the lights. And yes, light posts are something special, but do you understand the cost of pretty lights? Do you understand the cost to add electrical? Because I think many people are going to want to see lit Christmas lights. And the other thing that's not sexy, as we know, is the infrastructure. And that is more important to me than the streetlights on Bayfield Street. So my vote would be that no, we don't want to own our lights. I think we were lucky enough to have Xcel Energy put their foot in their mouth at the time. We were looking at lights from over by the cities, and certainly we just kind of shared a look we had going down Central Avenue with some.
cost is phenomenal, and I know and I understand it sets a look, but we're going to have brand-new highway, which means we'll have the curb and gutter and the sidewalks. We've got bump outs coming, but infrastructure is so important that $300,000 to $500,000 in light posts is, for me, better use for infrastructure.
If I could add to that, a lot of people point to other communities that have light posts that are very, very nice and fancy. And I remember Scott and I met with a representative from the state who said, yes, the state used to pay for that, we're not doing that anymore. And so a lot of those communities got it through state monies, which are no longer available. So we're just too late in the process. So if you saw those really nice lights that Ashland has on the highway, those are the ones the state says, we're not doing that anymore. And so.
What about any kind of grant opportunities of like beautification? You know, like I know that there's still some of those out there that could maybe help match. I just know how, I understand that it's a lot of money. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying like, I just know too, the tone, the setting of the tone and what that looks like is gonna be huge. We can't undervalue that too. So I just wonder if there's any other opportunities in the future to have some kind of a matching something.
As far as grants for the project, my initial focus has been on infrastructure grants. I have not spent any significant time looking at any sort of beautification grants. There may be something out there. I can't give you a solid answer on that question right now. I will add, based on the discussion, that again, Washburn is a little unique in that we have a very stretched out downtown, if you will. There are 60 light poles that are currently involved. The last home where I was at, where I did a downtown project, I only had 2 blocks to deal with. So there were only just dealing with 20 poles or something of that nature. So, I mean, there is that cost, but if we need, want to look at perhaps a section or something like that, that's something else that we would consider. We are going to have to, the difficulty I know with that is the circuits for the land, we're going to have to, there's going to be costs involved with this, is because I remember this from the 2008 project. There's a west circuit and an east circuit, and if we're going to change that, everything is going to have to be rewired anyway. So we may not save on the copper wiring, which is going to be expensive, but it could save on the actual cost of the light pole, which is probably going to run $2,000 to $2,200 per light pole. Thereabouts.
Depending on how fancy you want.
Right.
But I just thought that it's going to have to be rewired anyway, because there's going to be nothing there after they dig everything up.
Mm-hmm.
So Excel's going to have to rewire something. I don't know the answers.
I really would like to know about the smaller section. That was the first one that came to mind, is when we're looking for a feeling, a look, and the first impression coming into town. When we talk about sidewalks or anything, it feels like it's always important that we start like from the center out, like where the most of our public buildings and.
Kind of how we concentrated our bump outs, right? We put those in a couple key, I mean, I know we have one down further, but I'm just saying, that's the way that I'm going to, like, we have like core
And we
area.
go 2 blocks in the direction, not including the library. You know, that's hard to set a limit when we're, businesses will care, and we want to consider the whole stretch of Washburn inclusively, but I'd be curious if this would be something that would be significantly more affordable. I mean, obviously it's not affordable, but it does give an impression, and if we want to invite people that like cute, that matters to them. And if we're gonna play a game of if, one or the other, if you have to, then what do we give up to be able to have at least some improvement in aesthetics?
Give up anything, I just have to file one.
Well, that's
Well,
impossible,
though.
our limits of borrowing.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't have unlimited borrowing capacity.
No, I'm just saying like, it might not be, and if, you know, there could be, I mean, it depends on, there's so many unknowns of what it's gonna come out to be, right?
Tom, you had a comment?
Yeah, what I'm curious about, we do a shorter section. We went from like Fourth Avenue west to the bank with different lighting. Is that, actually, this is the core of downtown Washburn right here. You pull that route. And the core of Washburn would be taken care of.
What I might suggest on this, it can become a convoluted discussion because I don't have solid answers. I am not going to be able to answer all of your questions. But if your preference is in favor of new lighting, with the understanding that, hey, okay, we think that we want new lighting, but we want to look at either doing the entire section or we can request some sort of cost comparison of paring it down. We can look at that, but just know that we may be on, if we're gonna go the route of new lighting, we may be on the hook for something. But we'll do our best. We'll try to do the whole thing and maybe a pared down Fourth, First, or
Fourth Avenue to the bank. Because in that section, there's also a brownstone building in there. Is it not? Or is that just a little brick? The hardware store?
Oh, yes, that's brownstone facing.
Right.
Dental office is after that. Yes, Aaron.
Scott, do you know, the other thing is, you know, is that maybe in our heads we have this imagination of like what this would look like, but do we know of any new restrictions on lighting on a state highway that we might want to look into? You know, like, are those visions we have even possible with, you know, different lampposts than we have, as far as what kind of things you can actually hang from?
That's a good question.
there are requirements as to the amount of light that has to be provided if we're going to have it. So,
But as far as restrictions, you're not aware of any, as far as additional lights, you know what I mean?
What you can hang?
Right, like that.
oh, as far as what
Attachments.
attached, no, that's going to be based on the design of the light pole that would ultimately be selected.
And I think that's a good point, because we are in a different environment, because we do have a highway, like our downtown corridor, if you think of like, I don't know if you guys remember Wylander this year, but they did a kind of a little rehab there, right? And they have those big lights hanging in their downtown, and tons of pictures, kind of went viral. I'm not so sure we could do something like that because of, you know, so I think that's a really good point.
Karen?
Scott, in the reconstruction of Bayfield Street, what happens to the existing poles? Are they, because we have to replace the sidewalks, correct?
Correct. I don't have, I can't answer that
Okay.
question right now.
So are they just put on their side and then put up again, potentially, once the new sidewalk is up, or are they replaced?
I suppose that is a potential. The state and the Excel would have to come to a decision whether or not they would be reusable.
Okay.
So,
It might be replaced anyways.
Yeah, well, that was my question. So there might be a
You ever
replacement.
see that lighting? I think
Regardless.
streets are one-way streets.
I can't answer that.
And then my second question is it possible,
We talk one at a time.
is it possible at this point, given a lot of the unknowns, to have a placeholder and just say, yes, we reserve the right to continue to explore the possibility of new lighting or new poles, and in 2022, we will revisit it, or 2023? I mean, construction starts in '24, correct?
Yes.
So. what-
23 is too late.
Okay, 22 then. I started at 20.
The engineers have to have time to do all
Yeah, that I understand, but I'm just wondering at this point, because there's so much that we don't know, the cost, what happens to the existing poles, what kind of look we're interested in achieving. I mean, we haven't talked about, you know, sidewalks or plantings or any of those things at this point in time. Can we just say, yes, at this point, we're reserving the right to look at new light poles, and before 2022, we'll look at the costs and make a final decision? A placeholder.
I believe that we would be able to pull the plug
No
here
pun intended.
in the immediate future without significant implications.
Immediate future being 22?
Maybe within the next year.
Okay. One more.
I would like to suggest that I see both sides, and I'm always concerned about funding. And I know this whole thing is hugely expensive. And I think the infrastructure is really important, but I also think the look of the city is really important. And that I think that if we do a certain part of the inner city corridor, wherever that definition is, would be less costly. I don't think we can do all 60 poles, but if we did 20 right in the center, wherever we try, I think that may be a doable thing. I have no idea, but I think that's at least something to look into.
And investigating, like Karen said, if you have to like replace the poles all the way out, I mean,
Anyway.
we might have to, so I guess it's the question if, I guess council is comfortable moving forward with some uncertainties and knowing that we might have to pull the plug, like you said, there might be some engineering fees or something. I guess I'm completely comfortable with that.
So
And
with
talking
that,
with
the
Excel.
different types of lighting, in terms of how bright it gets, are the numbers required along each block? Or is it,
You mean like the pole count?
yeah, I mean, can we do with less? It's been argued that we have a bright downtown, but we don't want a dark downtown either.
We have a public works director who might have an answer, being an engineer.
Last time we met with the DOT, I asked them if there was a lighting standard that they have to build to, and they said there's not.
Really?
When I reference a lighting standard, it says, do you have to have lights or do you not have to have lights? So I'm taking that to mean that we don't have to have any lights on Bayfield Street.
There you go.
If that's what
That's
we
a new
want.
look.
We can be known as the dark town.
Yeah.
We want to come and get away from
Just-
like,
Just for
pollution?
perspective, so, I think you could possibly do a smaller segment, but it's also an option that you don't have to have the entire street. I just wanted to bring it up.
So when I start to picture some kind of gas lamp quarter, we could literally do gas lamps. We don't really need to have highway lighting that looks like that.
I think once you put them in, then there's standards for illumination on the roadway. If you want street lights, but there's also pedestrian lights, that are two different lights altogether, that might even be something to consider. Because of the fact that we don't have to have the street lit, we could have the sidewalks lit.
So is that something you would need to be specific about if we wanted more? Thank you for clarifying that, because I think pedestrian lighting is what most of us are picturing, would make us all feel more comfortable and cozy with downtown visuals. But how do we know what we're really asking the engineers to design around? Like right now, it doesn't sound like we know. So we could say, yes, we want to have the option to design around, assuming that we're changing lighting fixtures. It's not going to be exactly the same.
I think these are a lot of questions we need to ask
Yeah.
the
Right.
engineers and talk to Excel and see what their intentions are and what they've done in the past.
I'm sure there's lots of examples of what they've done.
Might be cheaper to have a cast lighting and hire someone to light them.
Lamp lighter.
Yeah.
There's
Great
a song,
job.
isn't there? We could write
It's like the
song.
news people put in the.
That's right.
What I was talking to Jen about, Donna Spooner, that one-way street, I can't remember if it's River Street or what they call it, but they have those style lights. Those are sharp.
Yeah, it gives you a different feeling.
Okay. I think we came up with a lot of good questions
Does
here.
somebody need a motion on
So
that, or
do
is
we,
it
yeah,
just?
that was my question. Do
more
we need
information?
action?
It's just discussion and action, yes.
Yes, that's
So,
action.
Scott, what would you like to do? Just to look into more possibilities and ask more questions?
I suppose at this point, my sense of the discussion is that the council is interested in exploring new lights, our own lights, as long as, with the caveat that we're looking at perhaps a smaller area. And some of these other questions have to be answered in keeping it within a reasonable price range. And so we have to have some of these questions that have to be answered before we can make a final decision. But we want to at least explore it.
Do we need action, or can you go forward with that understanding of where the council is?
If everyone is comfortable with my understanding of where the council is, that's what I'll go forward with.
Yes.
It's consensus.
I would make the
Well, we were talking about avoiding motion, but.
Oh, I thought you wanted a motion.
Okay, so we're just going, the discussion consensus is that we'll look into it and bring this back to you for further deliberation. I know it's really hard because we have no idea what costs are going to be. Next, discussion and action on ordinance number 2020-02, updating the city's recycling ordinance to be consistent with current statutory requirements. Just so you know, our city administrator, all his going to these forums and conferences, it's true, they are talking trash. Scott?
So before you is simply, this is simply a cleanup and update of our existing recycling ordinance. We have, we've had, the old ordinance is attached, and there have been a few clarifications and changes in state law regarding that. We also tried to clean things up. We don't need to put specifically how you have to prepare your recyclables in the ordinance, because some of this is a little out of date. And so the new ordinance has simply been changed to we follow the guidelines as outlined by our service provider. So this is mostly just a cleanup ordinance. We want to make sure that we got this done, because the DNR does go around and check to make sure you're doing things right. That was the purpose of this session that I had gone to. So I ask for your approval of the revised ordinance, unless you have any questions.
So the key element here is that we're not really doing anything different. We just cleaned up our thing. There's no additional burdens on citizens. So it's just making us update. Yes, so.
I just have one question, and it has to do with the non-residential or the multiple family dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of questions in terms of, like, for example, the apartment buildings. If they do not have recycling for their apartments or a dumpster for recycling and have you, does that mean that they're, because here it says materials specified in subsection 1 or I, whatever that is. And then number 2, this is an N, sorry, this is on the last page. So are they required to do that in this ordinance? They are,
Multifamily dwellings are required to recycle under state law.
under state law.
Yes.
Okay.
And if they're not, they would be in violation and subject to potential fines.
Okay, and so, okay, so, for example, the large apartment building next to me, they do not have recycling facilities. They have a dumpster that overflows continually, and they do not have recycling facilities. And I've had multiple people, because that's my district, when I went through and I was getting signatures, I had a lot of people ask me about that. I've never, now I'm remembering.
Okay.
And plus, people throw stuff in my bin all the time, in my neighbor's bin, because we're on that alley, because I think people want to recycle there, but they don't have, so maybe that's a separate business. I just wondered if it was, maybe I just needed
This is an enforcement issue.
an enforcement issue, so they are required.
Correct.
Okay.
Did you have anything else, Jen?
Nope.
Karen?
Scott, I have a question about, in page 2, yeah, page 2, M, where it says, shall prepare all material in a manner consistent with the directions included in the welcome letter provided by the city and/or the recycling service. How often do those letters come out? Or when do they come out?
Whenever we sign a new, like we have a new residence, they'll get that information. Whenever there's an update to that, it goes out. We have that information posted on our website, and it is available here at City Hall to anyone who asks. To refresh, to mail a new one out, we just have to do a separate mailing.
So it's not like an annual letter going out to say, remember, this is your annual information about recycling.
Correct. The city is supposed to do periodic refreshers and education, and so, we've done, after I went to this thing, we did a whole week of Facebook posts on garbage. Didn't get a lot of likes.
Didn't get a lot of likes.
But,
Okay, I just wondered if there was a
it's a dirty
routine
topic.
schedule in terms of that. No. Thank you.
I thought we had arranged, I do the jokes.
Yeah, and a question, we don't actually have to discuss this at length or anything, but I was, we just noticed, at least in our area, is the ordinance, it looks like in the ordinance it says it must be in front of your own residence. Now, the route of the pickups are often doubled then, because they're going down the street twice, because they're on each side of the street. And I was curious, because I can see a whole lot of issues with that, but I was curious, the route, is that Eagle Waste, is that us?
Did we miss another thing that should have been changed? That's what I was trying to do, is go through and pick out those little things that just don't make any sense. We want people to place their recyclables where Eagle Waste placed their containers. Initially, that's what they were supposed to do. So if it was in the alley, that's where it's supposed to be.
Right.
So,
So has that just been, so take 9th Avenue,
Okay.
we have recycling on both sides. So right now, the truck goes by twice. And so it picks up on one side and then it picks up on the other side. There's no alley, it's the avenue. And so I don't know how often that's happening, or if that's happening, on every street. And if so, it seems more efficient to just have it on one side, but I get that's not in front of your own residency.
we don't get involved in the establishment of the routes for Eagle Waste. They have basically mapped out what they believe are the best routes. It is more efficient for them when you have the alleys, and they have requested that everyone place their containers on one side of the alley.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's what they do. However, there are certain streets in town where, and some of the outlying streets which are more difficult, and they basically have to make those loops around anyway, or they're stuck in the corner, they're gonna have to
Sure. Okay.
make
So
their way out.
that does not, so that piece of the ordinance that says that in front of your own place of residence
Right.
isn't restricting, just, environmentally, fuel efficiency wise.
Now, if I go back and change that, it would be, again, should be placed where the service provider wants you to place it.
This back sheet of this section 8-3-5, recycling regulations.
That's the current ordinance.
This is current. So this is what, that'll go away.
So the changes that you're seeing here is not the complete ordinance. These is just indicating the changes,
Okay,
otherwise you're gonna have a lot of paper.
okay,
We're trying to reduce the amount of
Thank
paper
you.
that goes into the trash.
okay. I guess my only question left is that some of the language in here, and it maybe it's just different now, like, section I, where it says like, things that you separate the following materials, this rigid plastic containers made of PETE, HDPE, and it used to be a little bit easier, because you used to have like number ones and number twos, and I see like that's gone away. How are people, like, I guess I don't even know. I feel like I'm a pretty good recycler, and I don't even know what PP and PS and LDPE is, and where it was explained in the other one, it was explained more. I'm okay with it. That's my only, like, sometimes if I can't understand it or read it myself, I always question it, you know.
So our ordinance is gonna have the more technical stuff in it, but basically 1 through 7. is recyclable.
Okay.
Well, and this is also, again, going to depend on the provider, right? I mean, isn't it their
Correct.
rules, what they deal with?
It
So
is.
it's, so why is that even in here, if it's up to them?
There are certain things that are required to be recycled. Regardless of the provider. So
So basically, we're not gonna use this much.
this is how we enforce things when there's an issue. We have to have that.
Have to have that, but we're basically, okay. Because I just.
Aaron. I move approval of ordinance 2020-02, updating the city's recycling ordinance to be consistent with current statutory requirements.
Second.
Second.
Second by Mary. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, discussion and action on recommendation to amend deposit schedule to increase snow emergency violation fee and discussion on winter parking plowing issues. Good news is that it's melting. Scott, any comments on this one?
Okay, 2 things here. This is part of a larger discussion that has been had with the staff. Councilmember Nivus is part of that. As to just the general compliance with parking and making sure that our public works staff has the ability to effectively remove the snow from the streets, because the year like we had this year, we don't get that right away. We're stuck with it for the remainder of the season. It just kind of freeze in place. So it's important that we get compliance when we issue a snow emergency to get the vehicles off the street, so Public Works has clear ability to push the snow back as far as they can. And that's very important, especially in the early part of the season, which is what happened this past year. There are a few habitual offenders to the alternate side parking and to the snow emergency rules that we have in place. And the intention here is to put a little more teeth into the snow emergency rules. And we're, in some of our discussions, we're going to be a little more liberal in when we declare a snow emergency to get compliance with that. And so this would increase the fine from the current $30 to $50 is the request. There were some other discussions and some other ideas that were considered. However, we're not making recommendations at this time, but it is an opportunity that if there are other thoughts and ideas to have them discussed here. Before that, I don't know if I'll defer to the Public Works Director if he has any additional thoughts or comments on this issue.
So we know what happened at the end of November. Something I wanted to add that kind of pertains to this discussion is the biggest issue with snow removal is when do you mobilize your equipment, your crew. That was one of the things we were stubbing our toe on during the big snowstorm. And we tried to come up with a way to keep that from happening again in the future. So we even listed the police department and the sheriff's department. So anytime they see 6 inches of snow on the roads, they're going to call dispatch, who will get a hold of our crew, and that'll start the gears turning. So hopefully we never deal with another 31 inches of snow on Washington Avenue. And as Scott mentioned, at that point, we really couldn't declare a snow emergency because nobody could move. But I'm not sure, I think we only declared 2 or 3 this past winter, at most. But because of, it's all based on the timing. We had discussions about not parking certain hours. To me, that almost puts an extra burden on the residents that might not come to pass if they can't park between midnight and 6 in the morning, but the snow doesn't start going until 7 o'clock in the morning. It just seems like if we're more liberal with when we declare the snow emergencies, that's going to give us the most freedom and latitude in making sure the roads are clear timely. And like Scott said, there's not a lot of offenders there, but there's a few. But it'd be nice if we could really convince them that we're serious. I know, talking to Kenny, there was a couple people that brought in multiple citations at the same time just to pay them all at once. So I'm thinking if we can increase that, maybe that'll encourage them to do this.
Okay. Any questions? Yes, Tom?
I was in on that meeting, and one of the things that was suggested, and I want to bring this up again, anybody on this council, you can come sit down on my avenue and look on 4th Street and look down towards Washington Avenue, and you're going to see 4th Street do this. If we have a fire in the wintertime, there is no way, if they're parked on that first 2 blocks, fire department's getting in there. When there's no snow on that street, when they're parked on both sides down there, there is very little room for the bus to get through. Now, if a fire truck comes ramming through there, something's getting hit, or they're not getting in there. As far as, these habitual offenders, they do it all the time. The only thing that I think we're too lenient on is a 24-hour notice they have to move. We declare a snow emergency if it's not off the street, it should be told. To make their job easier. That's all I got to say on that.
Yeah, I know we weren't the only community that had issues, right? Like Duluth this year, they put things out all the time because they couldn't get their equipment. I think it was a bad year, but I do think in general, I agree if, even on my street, if people are parking both ways and there's just not a lot of room. But I don't know what else to do because not everybody has a place, an alley or a garage to park in. So I think making that rule of not parking or parking on one side of the street is, it's interesting that we only do that in the winter, not year round.
What parking on the side of the street?
Mm-hmm.
But those 2 blocks that I'm talking about, they have access to the alley.
Right.
So it's not like they have to park on the street. And some of them on the 4th Avenue side, they're already parking in their lawns to begin with.
Right. And that street's the worst.
Right.
Most of us have altered our route to school so to avoid certain streets because it's just really difficult. But I agree. I think maybe starting by doing some toning and increasing the fee sounds like a good first step.
I'm curious about the alternate side parking issue. I have had the experience of living in apartments where there's no off-street parking. I've lived next to places with no off-street parking, and when they have to get it off the street, it's just pile up right up to the front steps. And I mean, then I've also gotten tickets for not understanding the alternate side parking, starting over at midnight. You know, it takes a few tries, so $50 would really hurt me just because I didn't get it, so I'm hoping there's some, you know, plenty of warning.
There's a 1 month warning period, right? November to December, isn't that what it says in the ordinance?
I think that's what it says, yeah.
It says like, but after, so you get 1 month warning, and then after that, you're getting ticketed.
First of November to first of December. is
That's what
I
it
read.
says in the ordinance right now.
I was in your time, so that they didn't see me or something. But in other words, not, but I just know that it's really tricky to follow. So I'm curious for your history with other methods. Does anyone remember before there was alternate side parking or another way to manage alternate side parking, or even just choosing one side of the street?
That would be completely off the street.
Yeah, that was the old ordinance.
Oh, we're talking snow emergency.
No,
No.
no. Wintertime, everything had to be off the street.
That's how it used to be.
Yes, that's how it used to be. And people are saying, well, they're gonna bust up the curb. Well, I can tell you what, I've watched city employees come flying down the street and go around that corner, and I've seen the grader actually bounce from hitting that curb. Those curbs are not broke. You're not breaking those curbs. There's ice, so they can go right up on top and park.
Something's breaking the curbs in places. Okay, so yes, in the past, it was off the street entirely, which created some difficulty for people who did not have alleys. Because we have an ordinance that says you cannot park in your front yard, my car there. So, there's no simple answer. How would the council like to proceed?
I'll make a motion to increase the fee from $30 to $50.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It has been increased. Next, discussion action on resolution 20-002, providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation promissory notes, series 2020A, for the city of Washburn, Wisconsin. And this is also about financing in the second next issue. Scott, complicated topic.
Okay. So, I'll walk you through this here as simply as I can. This refinancing takes care of, gets us on the path for a number of different reasons. The original impetus for doing this was to fund our meter replacement project, which we've applied to the PSC for. That was approved a couple months ago. We need to replace all the water meters within the city. And so that's what we were originally looking to fund. In doing this, there are a few things that have happened. The first is 2 of our existing debts were identified as candidates for potential refinancing. One of those debts was for the Public Works Garage construction, which was 2010, and there's about 10 years left on the life of that loan. It was an ideal candidate for refinancing due to better interest rates. So that's all well and good. The second issue for refinancing is for the recent coal dock project, which there's be 9 years left on that refinancing, on that loan. There are 2 reasons for that. One is we can get a better interest rate now. Second, in reviewing this, the bond counsel, who's the attorney that reviews all of our borrowing loans and make sure that we're all within tax compliance and IRS rules and so on and so forth, has determined that it would be better for us if we had the coal dock issue as a taxable borrowing as opposed to a tax exempt because the revenue generated off of the coal dock. And so that's the other reason why we want to refinance that. So on that particular issue where it gets a little complicated here is, if you'll recall, we borrowed for the coal dock. We did not need all of that money, and we intended to use the leftover $200,000 for the West End boat ramp project, which is approved to begin this spring. So, what we are planning to do here is to pay back that $200,000 to that existing loan and take out a new loan just for the coal dock portion that we need to refinance, so that amount drops. Okay? That's the second resolution, and the good news is we're not going to deal with that resolution tonight. And I'll explain why here in a little bit. What we will do, though, however, is the resolution that has been provided in your packet, which deals with the refinancing of the city garage. It adds the $200,000 back in for the West End boat ramp project, and it also provides the dollars for the meter replacement project. Okay? So by approving this resolution tonight, what you are basically doing is authorizing us to solicit all the area banks for bids for this refinancing. The way this is structured helps us going into the future with the Bayfield Street project looming, so we're planning for how we're going to have all of our finances restructured, because we knew when we were doing the meter project, we have a lot of debt that is going to be paid off within the next few years. And so what I was attempting to do with the meter project was to capture that gap between where we're at now and where our debt level is going to be, in order to keep our debt service, how much we levy property taxes for our debt payments, to be consistent, so we don't have a lot of fluctuations. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of fluctuations in the coming years until we get to the Bayfield Street project in 4 years, where we know we're going to have to take out a significant debt, and so everything's then going to skyrocket back up. So what I'm trying to do is level everything out, and so we don't have big ups and downs. Okay, so that's all part of that. So the principal payments are front-loaded on the proposed refinancing and borrowing that is before you tonight, so that it maintains that, so that the plan is to get our debt down as much as possible before that Bayfield Street project, so that we have a good capacity to do a significant borrowing if we need it for that project. So it also addresses that issue going into the future. So I maybe have said too much and confused everyone. So this way, I suppose I will just ask for questions. If I've lost you, let me know. If you have other questions, let me know.
Karen?
The document that we have dated March 9 from Ellers in terms of the pre-sale report.
Yes, I put this on the table here, which I just printed off today. This is basically a summary. This is not going to be 100% precise, but this is basically. I don't know where I put
my question is that it's for $1,059,000 and the resolution is for $1,075,000.
I would recommend approving the resolution for $1,075,000, just to give us that. In talking with our financial advisor today, this figure is going to change a little bit.
Okay.
We have, we actually got lucky from a financial perspective in that interest rates have been dropping. And they've been dropping significantly lately,
Yes.
and so this is actually a very good time for us to do this. And so we're looking at very favorable rates. There was some question as far as the the fees for the actual refinancing, so I would leave it with the resolution as presented. It gives us that doesn't necessarily mean that we will go up to that amount, but it allows us to if we have to.
Is there a motion to approve resolution number 2020-002?
I would so move.
Second?
Second?
Any other comments, questions? Keep in mind, this is actually going to save us money. It sounds huge, but it's really good work
Yeah.
and a little complicated. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. And then Scott?
So just a word about the other resolution, which will be coming next month. We've been going back and forth as to what's the best rate going to be, how are we going to do this? We were originally going to go with the trust fund, then the loan is currently with Bremer Bank. They said they could beat the trust fund. Then last week, in the midweek, the trust fund lowered its interest rate. And then Bremer Bank came back and said, even with a taxable borrowing, we can beat that
We
yet.
have a bidding war for our money.
So we have. So right now we're looking at a 2.68% on a taxable rate. And so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's way better than what we're paying now on a non-taxable rate. So we're.
It was after the Fed cut the rate, I think, half percent, did they not?
Karen, do you want
Well, I have a question.
Yep.
So are we still in negotiation to see if, are you still negotiating with Bremer to see if they'll carry that?
As of this time, we intend to have, unless things change, the intention for the next month would have a resolution for that with Bremer Bank to refinance that at a smaller amount with that. So, but if things change, we'll certainly let you know. That's why we weren't ready with all these changes to bring that forward to you tonight. Now, just a word on that as well, as everyone here should be aware, that borrowing for the pole dock is a split between the Harbor Commission and the city general fund. So just so everyone is aware, and so just so I'm upfront with everything, the Harbor Commission payment will remain about the same, because the only reason the general fund made a contribution is the Harbor Commission didn't have the capacity to pay for the entire dock. But now we're taking that $200,000 out of that, and the interest rate is going down. We will maintain their approximate payment on that new loan, and the general fund portion of that payment is going to drop significantly. However, the general fund will be contributing more to this payment that you just approved tonight, and that is going to be for the West End boat ramp project, and then the utilities would contribute for the meter portion of that. So Tammy is just going to love me when I tell her to recalculate all this.
Any others? Okay, next is the alcohol licensing matters, application number 21-49. The motion to approve that application?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Well, it's be a little more specific, pursuant to the Wisconsin statute.
Gotta read it, Mary.
1925, for personnel matters, following which council may reconvene in open session to take any action that may be necessary on closed session items. This is a roll call vote.
Laura Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Aaron Austin,
Yes.
Jen Mazias,
Yes.
Tom Dimas,
Yes.
Aaron Novacek,
Yes.
Mary McGrath.
Yes.
We'll take a minute break and go to closed session for city administrator evaluation.
Do you need me
No,
here for any of
no.
that? No?
We'll be discussing with you later. Go home. It's only 7:15.
You must really be smart.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Reading.